poor man's Ferrari. Very often that's how Maseratis are referred to, and for a good reason. Actually, few of them. And this car, the Ghibli, is the reason why Maseratis are referred to as such, and why Maserati as a brand doing so bad nowadays. In this video, I will give you the tour of Maserati Ghibli that you can pick up for 15% of its original sticker price nowadays, and by the end of the video, you will find out why Maserati is failing and failing bad. Not that long ago, Maserati used to be in the upper echelon of automotive world next to like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and McLarens. It was known for its exclusivity and being exotic. Just like any exotic cars at some point, Maserati in the mid-2000s only had two models, the Gran Turismo and the 5th generation Quattroporte. So by the end of mid-2000s, and with new owners Fiat and Chrysler, that is now owned by Stellantis, Maserati decided to go from niche, exclusive market to more broad and appeal to everyone. So in 2010-2011, Maserati decided to work on a car that can compete with popular luxury models from Mercedes, Audi, and BMW. And by 2012, they developed such car and introduced it right away. And that was it, the Maserati Ghibli. As I mentioned, the Ghibli was designed to compete with Audi A6, Mercedes E-Class, and BMW 5 Series. And instead, Maserati, in congruence with Fiat and Chrysler, that is all owned by Stellantis now, created this cheap in quality that can be found as common as Toyota Camry at some country club parking lots. They created this car. They created a car that doesn't have enough Italian DNA and flair, besides the Ferrari-built engine of course, to actually compete with its German rivals. When I say cheap in quality, I truly mean in every way possible. This car truly hits every point that is fashionable and suitable for Fiat and Chrysler brands. Let's start with the exterior. It is striking. I think it is trying too hard to appeal to you, but would I refer to it as beautiful? Probably not. If you look at it from certain angles, it is good looking, but that's about it. However, from the back, it is definitely not good looking. It looks like a Kia Optima, the cheap everyday economy car from the back, especially those taillights. Literally 2013, 2017 looks the same from the back. And when you're paying six figures to buy this car, we're gonna talk more about the price in just a bit, you definitely don't wanna be associated with a $25,000 economy car from Kia. I wish modern Ghibli was getting its inspiration from its original design back in 60s and 70s. Now that car, the original Ghibli, was absolutely out of this world beautiful. Car like that from Maserati, what made Maserati an iconic brand. And it is sad to see and realize that Maserati nowadays lost its exclusivity and charm of being iconic and truly exotic because of this pile of nonsense. Before we talk the disappointment of the interior, which is even worse than the exterior, but the fact that it's been wrapped truly adds more to philosophy in the type of owners, type of people buy Maseratis. This cheap in quality, wannabe exotic car truly appeals to same kind of people with same philosophy. This car is already trying too hard to do better in life, but then the type of people buy this car want to take that to another level. That's why they wrap these Ghiblis, they blacken their wheels, and now it looks even more awful. Now, with that being said, before I move into discussing the interior and its quality and comfort, I want to talk one thing that I absolutely love about this car, and that would be the key. The key actually feels very solid. It is very heavy. It is nice to actually have it in your hand. I wish the whole car implemented the philosophy of its key, because the key is actually high quality and very nice to touch and have it in your hand. I'm gonna keep holding this key in my hand because it actually makes me feel decent being around this car. I'm not trying to be too dramatic. All right, let's move on. But in terms of the interior of this car spending just a couple hours with this now. It falls so short in terms of luxury and ambience compared to its European rivals and German rivals, specifically Audi, Mercedes, and BMW. Oh my God. I don't want to touch this interior, to be honest. It is so cheap. There is way too much Fiat and Chrysler. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, it is so cheap. There's way too much, like I said, Fiat and Chrysler, and very little Maserati. Besides the logos, logo of the Trident, the iconic logo of Maserati is everywhere, but that's it. The window switches, the buttons on the center console, steering wheel controls, the center screen and the gauge cluster, all straight out of Dodge Dart that costs $18,000 and they give you $7,000 discount if you were to buy that car. And you have that Chrysler cheapness in the six-figure Italian luxury sports sedan. And then there is technology. Look at this backup camera quality. It is absolutely awful. This is a 2018 Maserati Ghibli Grand Sport. This is top of the model trim, the most expensive trim in the Ghibli lineup, but yet they don't have 360 camera, and just the backup camera on its own is just truly awful. And the whole infotainment system, to be honest, is straight out of Dodge Charger and Chrysler 300. It's just so slow. It is terrible, and the quality of infotainment system in general, I can't talk enough how awful this is. But there is this iconic Trident, the Maserati logo, reminding you you are indeed not in a $25,000 Dodge Charger. And the interior space, they even screw that up. I'm not sure how. This is a mid-size sedan, so this is not a small car. This is the size of an E-Class and 5 Series BMW. But how come the German rivals are so much more spacious in the back? I'm 6'3" and I have the front seat as I would sit comfortably in the up front, but I barely have any space. I mean, Toyota Corolla probably have more space in the back than this car has. And then my head is touching the ceiling of the car as well, so I don't even have enough head space. I'm not sure how they screwed that up this badly, but there is no comfort in any way inside this car. Now, I know I've been bashing this car really hard, but there is one thing that is really good and really Italian, and that would be the Ferrari built engine. And not just this engine. This car has 3 variations, actually 4. There's a V8 version called the Trofeo, but that one is very limited and it's going to be way too much money. So V6 is a very popular choice. It's probably the main choice for Ghiblis. And they also have the diesel version of this V6, which is amazing because Ghibli is the only car that Maserati ever did with diesel. But unfortunately, it's the same diesel V6, at least it's based on the same engine that you can find in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. That's not what you want to hear when you buy an exotic brand like a Maserati and having the Jeep Grand Cherokee engine in it, even though it was developed under Ferrari guidance. But this engine was certainly developed by Ferrari, and it is the best part besides the key about this car. Like I said, this is a 2018 Maserati Ghibli Grand Sport. This is top of the trim, and this has more performance. The base model Ghibli comes with the same V6, but just less performance. It has around 325 horsepower. But the Ghibli S and then Grand Lusso and Grand Sport trim of the Ghibli comes with more performance V6. This one has 425 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. Very healthy numbers, making 0 to 60 in about 4.7, 4.8 seconds. That is actually a very healthy performance and kinda on par to compete from the same era with its German rivals like M5 or E63 AMG. And just visually, it is a pretty good looking engine bay and a really good looking V6 engine. And then there's the best part about this engine that was built by Ferrari, and that would be the exhaust note. After listening to its glorious and delicious exhaust note, now let's talk its biggest downside, and that would be the depreciation on the secondary market. Speaking generally, luxury cars depreciate pretty heavily on secondary market, especially in the first 3 to 5 years, but nothing depreciates as fast and hard as Maserati, and the Ghibli is no exception. Originally, this Maserati Ghibli Grand Sport back in 2018 when it was new cost $80,300, which in today's money equates to $100,000. Absolutely insane. And today, Ghibli's cost even more. The base model starts at $110,000. It can go up to around $170,000. Absolutely insane. And you lose 80% of that in just 4, 5, maybe 6 years. Obviously, buying these new is the dumbest financial decision you can make, but the question would be, is it a really good car to buy now when they cost the equivalent of a 2-3-year-old Nissan Versa? I'm gonna let you answer that question after you watch this video, but now I have another question. Maybe this car's driving experience makes up for all its drawbacks and the flaws. Let's find out. Steering, however, is pretty light. I wouldn't say it's sporty per se, but it does have the sporty feel and flair to it. It's kind of aggressive, but steering at the same time is very, very loose. I'm not sure if I like that. I like how the M3 and M5 drives when it kind of resists you. This car does not very much. But exhaust note, however, is pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not sure if you can hear that on camera. Let me lower the AC and do it one more time. That's pretty good. For a V6, it does sound pretty good. Probably literally the best thing about this car is the Ferrari built engine and the key. Key is pretty solid. I've been playing with it for quite a while now, since I've been reviewing and spending time with this car. But everything else about this car is, I don't know how to describe it in one word. It would be, The V6 from Ferrari is not really worth buying it, in my opinion, but it does sound pretty good. Whew. Yeah, it is kind of alive. It's like it wants you to hit the gas, which I like, obviously. Oh, there's a cop right there. I don't want to piss him off. Driving this car, I want to be as invisible as possible. I don't want too much attention because I'm driving a modern Maserati. It's already kind of embarrassing in my opinion. But then you do this awful wrap and blackened wheels. And if you modify the exhaust even more to it, then game over. But I guess from the factory, in this package, the Grand Sport is okay car to drive every day. It kind of feels good. The paddle shifters I like. They're fixed in place. Not like cheap cars that have paddle shifters and they move with the steering wheel. This at least doesn't have that, so kudos to you, Maserati. But everything else, I mean, the interior quality, literally this cheap, it looks like a leather, but it's not. It's like cheap plastic, wannabe kind of leather. And then touching the steering wheel doesn't really feel good. And looking at this infotainment system, I used to have Dodge Charger, and it literally had, it was 2015, it literally had the same screen. The Uconnect is what they call it. It fits that car, but it doesn't fit the Maserati. Come on! And the technology in general is just terrible. The backup camera is literally from 2010 quality. The center screen is kind of ugly. At least the speedometer and tachometer, I mean, it's acceptable. It's actual Maserati, but the screen in between is so cheap. Even that watch in front of, in the center of the dashboard, it doesn't make up to it, unfortunately. The switches are so cheap, and it's pretty noisy in here. Everything is kind of wobbly and squeaky. The seats are not that comfortable. I don't know if you can hear that. This is nothing of my possession that is making all these noises. Tires are pretty loud. I believe maybe it's the tire choice of this owner. It's just so loud. But the engine, yes, the engine sound, the exhaust note, okay, it kind of makes up to everything else in this car, but not quite. Definitely not if you're paying $80,000 back in 2018. Absolutely insane. They did discontinue Ghibli. 2024 is the last model year for Ghibli's. They don't want to steal from Quadriporte apparently sales, and they did good by canceling Ghibli. It did exist for 11 model years, which is pretty good. They did a facelift to this car, I believe in 2018. This was the first facelifted version, but they literally look identical with the previous Ghibli. Definitely not a difference in the quality. There's this shifter that is so confusing and just terrible to use. When you want to go on the drive, you hit the neutral for the most part. When you want to park it, you hit the reverse. It's just such a mess. Everything about this car, there is no thought to it. It feels like they had to come up with the A6 Audi competitor, the 5 Series competitor, the E-Class competitor, and they had to slap something together, and they did, and this is the product of that slap mentality. It is so sad to see where the Maserati is nowadays, and this is the reason that Maserati's reputation is ruined this bad. It is what it is. I am genuinely curious. There is no comfortable space in the back here, as we covered already, but I'm genuinely curious what's next for Maserati, because they're doing pretty bad nowadays, but apparently by 2025 all of their current models will be electric, or gonna have electric version rather, and then by 2028 they're gonna have only EVs in their lineup, which to me that sounds way too ambitious. And the name will be, for every model they're gonna have, is Folgore, whatever. It means lightning, believe it or not, in Italian. From what I see what's happening in the EV world, the growing interest in EVs is not really growing. So I think going further with the switch to being completely electrified and having only EVs in your lineup, I think Maserati are going to be in even more trouble than they are today. I'm not sure. I personally think they have to go the other way around again and come up with very exclusive and actual exotic cars going forward, rather than appealing to broad audience, but that's my opinion. I'm not sure. If you ask me, I think they're gonna go bankrupt unless they find a new owner that actually gonna redirect them towards going more exclusive and exotic, but that's just my opinion. I'm just hoping they're gonna survive, because I love the charm and the exclusivity of Maserati, and they don't offer that today. The Maserati Ghibli certainly stands out as the stylish luxury sedan among its European rivals, but it does fail to deliver and meet the expectations in the luxury department. However, if you're buying one and paying $15,000 or less for such an iconic exotic brand, then that might be a pretty good idea. And speaking of exotic, if you want to find out what exotic car I am buying for only $3,000 creatively, you should definitely check out this video here.